Mendelssohn,
Mozart, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky,
Debussy. Love me some Debussy.
Mozart, Beethoven, Brahms,
Schubert. Oh man.
Female composers.
I zero. I've got nothing. There's just sort of one who's still alive. I can't, which is terrible. It's horrible. I'm a singer.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Joy Leilani Garbett, the co-founder of the Boulanger Initiative, a nonprofit organization that advocates for and supports music composed by women through education, performance, commissions, research, consulting, and every other way that we can. We are so pleased to welcome back to the screen pianist Sarah Cahill and her remarkable project, The Future is Female. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Joy. Thank you so much. And what a great beginning with Gabriella Smith's music. She's a Berkeley girl. She grew up here, and I remember her as a very talented teenage composer. So that's a wonderful video you have at the beginning. It's an honor. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it's such a dynamic and energetic piece, and we just
Absolutely.
We just love her music.
Yeah.
So for anyone that was here yesterday, you already know what a treat you are in for. But for anyone who's joining us for the first time today, Sarah, I'm just going to ask you if you could briefly reintroduce your fabulous project, The Future is Female.
Yeah, so this is a project I've been working on with over 60 compositions for solo piano by women from around the world from 1707 onwards, because that's sort of around the time keyboard music really, well, there's earlier keyboard music, but Elizabeth Jacquet de la Guerre is 1707. I've been doing some performances as marathons with a kind of immersion in music by women for 5 or 6 or 7 hours. And this 60 compositions, it's only a small part of what is available. So it's not at all an exhaustive list, but I tried for a real range, geographical as well as stylistic and in terms of age and so on, but mostly just because it's all really great music.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I love about this project. It's so beautifully curated, and it really has very intentional scope and depth in presenting this body of literature that is not in any way just a tokenistic listing of a few names. And something you mentioned yesterday was the difference between knowing the names of composers. Maybe they appear as names in a textbook, but really taking the time to delve into the music and study it the way we would the repertoire of male composers. And you've done that, and it's so inspiring.
Thank you. I think it's really important to go in depth, and maybe something we'll talk about later on is just the sort of implicit bias that everybody has about women composers. And I just want to say Florence Price writing to Serge Koussevitzky and saying, would you be good enough to hold in check the possible inclination to regard a woman's composition as long on emotionalism, but short on virility and thought content until you shall have examined some of my work? So she's saying, just listen to it on his own terms. Don't have this, bias saying, oh, it's long on emotionalism, but short on virility and thought content. Like there's already, just seeing the woman's name, there's already so much baggage that goes along with that. So maybe we can talk about that later on. I know our time is tight today. Yeah.
Yes, there's so much to say about this topic, and we could just go and have a much more in-depth conversation, but I don't want to delay us from the amazing music that we have waiting for us. And I am really delighted that we're starting off our musical journey in France, because it's a country that's very dear to my heart.
Yes, and Joy, I want to ask you, I admire the Boulanger initiative so much, and I've been looking at your website, and you have 9 videos there of your own work as an organist. I think all made in Paris, where you were in residence for a while, but they're all works by women, and so many names I don't know at all, and they're beautifully played. I mean, just such beautiful performances, and I have so much to ask you about. But let's talk a little bit before we listen to Hélène de Montgeroux, which is the first piece on that we'll listen to. Women composers in France in the 19th century. So tell us a little bit about your own work there.
Thank you so much for asking about that. It's such a rich musical history. I'm so partial to the music of France, and that was my introduction really to music composed by women, because I was just trying to dig deeper and find more French repertoire for the organ, and I stumbled across 1 or 2 pieces composed by women in this time period that was such a fruitful time for organ composition and for music in France, end of the 19th century, early 20th century. And as you were saying, there's so much bias around seeing a woman's name on a composition at that time and persisting until now. So it's just been a real pleasure to bring this music to new audiences with hopefully without that bias of just listen to the music. It's really beautiful. It's well constructed. It's thoughtful. It's intelligent. It's creative, and it's been just such a pleasure to get to know this body of literature more.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to go to your website and watch those videos, and it's a great experience. I'm going to spend some time there later today after our conversation.
Thank you so much.
But Hélène de Montgeroux, who's the first composer, and this is the longest piece. This is in 3 movements, a real sonata. She lived at the same time as Haydn and Mozart, but she also anticipated Romanticism. So sort of did Chopin-like things before Chopin did them himself. So this sonata to me sounds like a bridge between Haydn and Schubert. And she was really ahead of her time and was the first professor of piano at the Paris Conservatory when it opened in 1795. Kind of incredible. So
incredible.
Yeah. But not a lot is known about her. Anyway, this is one of her piano sonatas, and this is on the out of tune, I'm afraid, piano at my mother's house, which is a Steinway from 1893. So,
that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. It's Hélène de Montgeroux. And Joy, what you were
What
saying
a beautiful start to this program.
It's a beautiful piece. And what you were saying before about, living with music for a long time. And that's, of course, the sign of a great composition. And you just want to keep playing it for years and getting deeper into it and getting all the right notes. And it's, so this is a piece that I hope to live with for years and years and years. And of course, we've all had that experience of pieces where it's like, yeah, now I know this and now let's move on. But, I feel like all the pieces in this project are those pieces where you just want to get deeper and deeper and deeper into them. So, yeah. So now,
yeah, there's so much there. And I just wanted to say my favorite story of Montgeroux that I'm sure you know is her, she was supposed to have saved herself from
possibly
execution during the revolution because of her improvisations.
right, possible. Well,
Is it apocryphal? Oh, I love this story.
Right, that she was about to be
Oh, I just love the message that music saves lives.
in the French Revolution and then broke into variations on the Marseillaise. That is a great story. We'll think of it as true. We'll just assume it's true. Yeah. Next we have
I love that all of the composers on this program today.
Oh, on this program today?
Sorry, go ahead. I'm just got a slight delay.
Oh, sorry.
On the program today, I was just going to say all of the composers have a connection to France, and I think that's wonderful. So I'll let you introduce our next.
Does Je bois les Martinetite, does she have a connection to France?
She did a residency at the Cité des Arts in Paris in 2015. So that's her connection to Paris.
Oh, wonderful. She's a young Lithuanian composer. And I came across her name and was curious and went to her website and really loved what I heard of her music. And I bought this piece called Heights and Depths of Love. This is just the first movement. So it turned out she had written this for a pianist who didn't end up playing it. So I got to play the premiere. And she has these wonderful descriptive markings or sort of descriptions on the notations on the score. For instance, at the very beginning, it says, tenderly, as though touching petals of a spring flower or touching a beloved one for the first time. So this is just the first movement, and I in a performance at Bowling Green, and I want to learn the whole thing soon. So, Je bois les Martinetite. Yeah, it's a beautiful piece. It's a beautiful piece, and that's just the first of the three movements. Je bois les Martinetita. You can pronounce her name better than I can, but
Oh, I've been
that's
she's
the way
incredible.
yeah,
Such
yeah,
a gorgeous soundscape.
yeah. It really gets inside your body. I can't believe how fast this is going. I want to thank Alad Roberts, who is making everything run smoothly, and it's almost like we're in the same room. So hope we can do
Yes,
sometime in the not too distant future.
Yes. Yes, it would be wonderful to do this in person, but we're so glad for the technology to be able to do this
Yes.
from where
Yeah.
distant locations.
So
And I hope we fixed the small delay that we were having before, so I can hear you much better now.
It seems like we have. It seems like we have. Next is Teresa Carreño, born in Venezuela and best known for being a virtuoso pianist. There are recordings of her playing as an older woman, but she composed when she was a very young woman and wrote this piece at the age of 15. She was a composer at the age of 15, yes. So this was 15-year-old Teresa Carreño, and she later went on to perform for Abraham Lincoln and also for Franz Liszt. She had quite a career, but her composing happened earlier in her life. Do you play any Teresa Carreño?
No, I have not, in fact, but I'm really interested in doing so. She's one of those women that accomplished so much, from performing and composing and conducting and international touring, and it's just such an inspiring figure.
Exactly, exactly. So this is a short piece of hers called Un rêve en mer, a dream of the sea. 15-year-old Teresa Carreño.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe she was just 15 years old. That is
It is. It's just such
amazing.
it's a magical piece, and things she does, and it's the kind of piece, you know what it's like when you first look at the score and you're like, oh my God, I like that, you know, the ending is so remarkable, and the way she sort of the harmonic turns like in a Bellini aria. You know, it's very much a vocal piece and just so beautiful. And I didn't know the Boulanger Initiative points out that Amy Beach's piano concerto and also Edward McDowell's piano concerto #2 were dedicated to Teresa Carreño. So that's amazing. So as you say, a great distinguished career. And as is the next composer we're going to hear, Julia Perry. Yeah.
I love the French connection for Julia Perry, which is that she went to Paris to study with Nadia Boulanger. So that is really just such a wonderful connection for us, that she was awarded the Boulanger Grand Prix for her viola sonata while she was there.
Oh, lots of interesting connections. And yes, and wrote sort of neoclassical works under Boulanger. She wrote 12 symphonies, a requiem, a Stabat Mater, 2 piano concertos, 4 operas, and a lot more. And it's great that she's getting more performances, but of course she deserves much, much more.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course. Can you tell us a little bit about the prelude?
Yeah, this is a short piece that is in the book called Black Women Composers, A Century of Piano Music, published by Hildegard Publishing. And there isn't a lot of information about this piece. It's very short. So I recorded this recently. Yeah,
great.
Julia Perry.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is such a powerful piece.
It's such a powerful piece, and she distills so much in just a few minutes. And it's got, you know, elements of blues and classical, sort of experimental new music, and it's adventurous, and it's a really amazing piece, very powerful. Yeah, I played that.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, yeah, that recording is
it's just such a compact sound world. It's
yes,
beautiful.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, there's a lot more to say about Julia Perry, and if maybe we can talk about her a little bit later on. But we're We're going to listen now to Teresa Wong. This is the last piece on the program for today. And she's a good friend and also a brilliant composer and cellist, pianist, singer, artist. She has so many talents. She lives here in Berkeley. And I asked her for a new piece. This is inspired by Nina Simone's song Images, which in turn is based on a poem by William Waring Cooney called No Images. And the first few lines, this is where the title comes from. She does not know her beauty. She thinks her brown body has no glory. If she could dance naked under palm trees and see her image in the river, she would know. And Teresa in this piece uses the time signature 13/8. She says that she learned how the now unlucky number originated in many ancient cultures as a symbol of the divine feminine. For instance, there are 13 cycles of the moon and menstrual cycles a year. And Friday the 13th originally represented the day of the goddess, a day to celebrate the cycles of creation, death, and rebirth. So the number 13 is very important in this piece. And at the beginning, she uses a technique where you press down certain keys, you hold them down with the middle pedal of the piano, which is the sostenuto pedal, and then you play a glissando and you take off the pedal so that those pitches emerge. So, and she quotes the beginning of the Nina Simone song in the melody of this piece, that you can barely hear it sort of within the resonance of the piano. So it's a really interesting piece by Teresa Wong.
Wow, it's such an evocative title, and the poetry with it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Wow.
A great piece. Now that's a piece. First of all, that ending I find very powerful because she has you. One hand is fortissimo, and the other hand is doing a decrescendo. So I mean, it's like it's this feeling of one side staying very strong and present, and then the other side is receding. You know, the other hand is sort of receding into the background and just sort of backing away. And there are so many things that go through my mind when playing that. Also, you know, that's a piece that really helps to work with the composer on. And it's great that she's local and we could work together because she has these techniques like to take your your forearm and just sort of smudge the keys. And when you're going like, vroom, like that, which isn't you know, there's the one that Henry Cowell did that's sort of like a wave where you start at the bottom and you do a wave glissando with your arm. But I mean, there are all these things, but she does that, like where you go vroom, like that, but also the smudge, which is really takes some getting used to and I've never done before. So there were a lot of some techniques that took, and also the counting 13, 7 and 6, and
it gives such drive to it, and it was so interesting. There's so much nuance in the technique that you were just describing. That's not just a glissando. I mean, there's so much nuance around the ways that the piano can be used, and how fortunate to be able to work with the composer.
Yes, I know. That's a great thing. So I commissioned that piece for this project, and I'm working on more now. So so we have some questions.
Yeah, we have a question. So and if anyone else has questions, feel free to add them to the chat. This was a question from yesterday that we didn't have a chance to get to, and we wanted to make sure that we addressed it today. So one of our viewers from the violin channel raised this question of how do we push awareness of amazing female composers in the educational systems globally and encourage more young female composers to be inspired into this profession?
Yeah, so I just want to say that there are organizations, wonderful organizations like the Luna Composition Lab, and they're doing really incredible work in mentoring young female and female identifying composers and partnering with ensembles who then perform their music. So I think they're doing really important work, and there are other organizations like them. And Joy, you probably have an answer to that question yourself.
Well, I just think from the work that you're doing is such a wonderful example, because exposure just to the concept that women compose music, and it's been so lacking historically. And so I think if we can just reach more young people who are not surprised by the idea of seeing seeing a woman's name on a concert program or in a textbook, or we'd like for it to become not a rare thing, not an unusual bit of programming, and really part of the whole system.
Exactly. And composers who look like them, because we've all been in those schools, those public schools where there's a big poster of composers through history, and they all look exactly alike, you know. And I mean, they're great composers, or some of them are and some of them aren't.
Right.
But it's like
it's a range.
A single woman, a single person of color in the entire bunch. And that's sort of the way we learn.
And it represents such a small portion of the map of the globe. It's, maybe 2 or 3 countries represented on those big lists of composers. And I love how you have really been very broad, both historically and in geographically, and where you're finding music.
But how else do you think young female composers can be encouraged and inspired? And do you see other organizations? I mean, I think there are. I
think mentorship is really important. That's something that we're working on, to connect young composers with mentors. Temple University has a young composers camp that's really incredible. And there's we're trying to help connect composers with students to work directly.
I know in jazz, there's a wonderful organization, REVA, REVA. My friend Jessica Jones, who is a saxophonist and has a band and lives in New York, and she mentors young women from both the United States and Africa, and has gets them to perform with each other, and organizes mentorship and teaching and so on. So that's a very valuable organization as well.
Yeah, well, it's definitely important work, and we're so happy that you're doing this work. We're going to continue to try and
Yeah.
support and support young women
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
every way that we can.
Yeah. Oh, and there's also the Young Women Composers Camp, which is youngwomencomposers.org.
Yes, I think we just put the link. Hopefully, the link will show up
Oh,
in the chat if anyone wants to
okay.
learn more about that.
Yeah, I don't know about the Young Women Composers Camp, but the Luna Composition Lab, I've known both the teachers and students who have gone through that program, and it's very, very valuable. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So.
Another question that I had for you was just a question that came up a little bit yesterday, but I wanted to just know more about how you go about finding scores for the music that you play, and if somebody wanted to play some of this music, what advice would you give for tracking down scores?
Yeah, so some of the scores are in public domain, and IMSLP is an incredible resource, the International Music Score Library Project. So they have, for instance, Elizabeth Jacquet de la Guerre's keyboard suites from the early 1700s, and they're both in manuscript and a recent edition. And they have Teresa Carreño's work and Cecile Chaminade and Anna Bon and many others. And you, Joy, you yourself know what it's like to make discoveries. And for me, it was one of them was Nina Makarova, where I saw her name and was curious who she was. And then browsing on the internet, came across her etudes. And, you know, again, you look at the score and think, oh my God, I can't wait to take this to the piano. It's so exciting. And then I look up what recordings there are, and there's one LP of her playing, and it's on eBay for $75. So the goal, I think, is to get this work out there and show that it's available. And I don't know what your experience was in the scores that, you know, you've done these videos of, or have those pieces been recorded before?
No, the only composer that I've played who has some works recorded is Jean Demiseux. So she's got a bit more of a presence in the organ community, but the others have either never been recorded. Some of the pieces have never been performed, which is just, it's really exciting to find these pieces, but also really sad that this music has just sat for so long without anyone hearing it or knowing about it.
Yeah. So that's very valuable work to get it out there and say, this is what you should be working on, instead of this, you know, third or fourth rate composer that your teacher has given you.
Right. That's already been recorded 500 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, that's,
we have a question about the middle pedal on the piano. Can you give a little bit more information on the technique you were describing for the?
Yeah, I would take us all into the piano in the next room, but it's a little messy in there. The middle piano is called the sostenuto pedal, and many pianos have it, and sometimes you encounter a piano that doesn't have it. And to play Teresa's piece, that's hard if it doesn't have a middle pedal. So basically, it holds down certain pitches. Like if you press down notes and then push down the middle pedal, or say you play a chord, press down the middle pedal and it just sustains those notes, and then you can play other things on top of it, as opposed to the pedal on the right hand, the sustain pedal, that makes everything sort of muddy if you try to do that. So it's good for bringing out certain pitches and not others.
Well, that's very cool. And I don't see it used as often as some.
I know. It's kind of a secret pedal. Yeah.
Oh, we have another question here. It's been wonderful to take part. Validating and inspiring. Okay, sorry. I thought we had a question.
Gracie Caggiano. Yeah, thank you for your comment. That's great. You're a composer yourself. So that's wonderful to hear that it's been encouraging and validating and inspiring, because I think that's the thing that, you know, we thought, didn't we think that by 2020, there would be so much more progress?
Yes.
And there has been a lot of progress, and there are composers who get their operas performed, Missy Mazzoli, and get symphonies performed, and Jennifer Higdon. And I mean, there are composers who are certainly out there getting performed, but but not as many as we would like. And I think for me,
Right.
it was also very important to go into the past and advocate for work that, you know, it's the kind of thing, if you hear of these 5 composers, then there must be 20 composers out there who are really worth investigating and haven't been discovered yet.
Yeah, it's so true. And I really love that you've taken this idea, you're helping to deconstruct this idea of exceptionalism, of these only a few exceptional people, only a few exceptional women who happens to somehow be good at composing. And there are really just as many people in time in his musical history and now, and it shouldn't be this one exceptional thing to find an opera composed by a woman or a symphony composed by a woman. It should just be a regular part of the landscape.
Exactly. And the persistence that is necessary. I mean, the determination and strength of someone like Florence Price to just say, my music is worthy. You know, my music is important. I need to get it out there. I mean, it takes so much strength along with the work of composing. How did you, Joy, I mean, were you trained in performing only the work of men?
Yeah, I really did. As an organist, I did not know that women composed music historically. I really didn't. I thought that there must be some that are alive now. Their music isn't played very much generally, but I really thought it was just a completely male-dominated music history until I started digging into it. And as Laura has expressed yesterday, and so many of us have heard, when I came up with the idea to do a program of music composed by women, from my professors to colleagues expressed, like, is there even enough music for one program? Are you going to be able to fill an hour? Like, does it exist? And there's so much. I think from what I found just in the last few years, in one country for one instrument, I could probably do about 10 hours of just French organ music by women. So it just shows wherever you are, whatever instrument you play, there is music out there that we haven't gotten to hear yet. And I just hope everyone that plays an instrument will continue to search for this.
That's true. And eventually, I hope organizations I remember Laura saying that she hopes that eventually Boulanger Initiative won't need to exist because there will be some equality in programming, but we're not anywhere near there yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we will continue to work towards that. We are so honored to be doing projects like this with you, Sarah. It's just been a delight. I encourage everyone to please look up all of the composers that you heard today, learn more about them, learn more about Sarah's work in this project.
Thank you. And go to Boulanger Initiative. And yes, what valuable work you're doing. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's such an honor to talk with you.
It's been a delight.